What's up, guys? It's Talon. So today I'm going to be coaching a Emerald Darius player who is a peak of Master. So he really wanted to get better at the game, and I found that the most valuable thing that we talked about was during the notes part of the session, where I talk a bit about the mindset with him of getting better and how to improve. And generally speaking, a lot of the issues here come from kind of his mindset and the way he's approaching the game. And so I think that's a valuable thing that you guys can learn from this, alongside some gameplay things as well. If you're wondering why the overlay is like this is how he recorded it. He recorded it with his overlay because I think he streams. So I think in the bottom left, objection_DEG, I think that's his Twitch. So if you want to check out his Twitch or whatever platform that's on, that he's streaming on, you can definitely do that because I think he streams and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it. I do coaching for $15 an hour as a rank 5 sovereign autofill player. So if you guys are interested in that, just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or through the link in the description. And let's get right into the video. We'll start with the game now. So you're going no flash, which I think is not good. That's the first thing. I don't actually play Darius, but if you want Ghost, you should go Flash Ghost, or you should go Flash Ignite. I don't really think you should just go Ghost and no Flash, because like the biggest problem with that is like sure you get more like overall mobility and like resets and team fights, but if you get ganked early game, there's no way to really escape because you'll get stunned and then you don't have enough time to avoid it. Where like you can actually Flash or do things. And again, if you want to play Ghost, just play Ghost and Flash. But
Gotcha.
also don't trade like this with him. Like I know it feels like this is good because you want stacks, but if you look under Set's thing, you see that the white bar is going up, which means he started W. If the white bar doesn't go up, it means he didn't have W, obviously. And so you're just trading with him, giving him full stacks, and then he's just going to win the trade on you. Like, if he was smart here, he would, after you were at, like, 3 stacks, he would W and then he'd run away. He's dumb, and he's letting you get to 5 stacks, and so now if you do Ghost and dodge his W, you can kill him, or at least make him flash. So, like, because of how he's reacting to it, it's fine, but if he played it properly, you wouldn't really want to do that. And yeah, like if you were gonna try to outplay like this, you would be ghosting and trying to go, dodge his W. But you see what ends up happening. We obviously lose the trade really hard. So
Not really hard. It's barely like by
you're losing
half.
it to his set, so you're losing it by a lot more because he has this
And
also
I'm dead.
obviously. But you're losing it a lot harder because Set has regen. So when you don't win the all-in into him, you're losing it even harder than even just the initial trade. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't like crazy hard. It was playable, but also that's another thing which we should react to as well, or we should talk about as well. And that's what happens in this situation, because this actually pisses people off. Like this is a great way to just annoy people. So you trade really hard in a lane, you lose the trade, you're in a really bad spot. In this situation, you just recall, and then he has to recall, or else you can come back, ghost on him, and once you're level 2, you would just kill him if he doesn't recall. So like he has to recall in response to you recalling, and usually they greed and don't do that. So once you're in this bad of a spot, don't be afraid to just recall when this does happen, like level 1. Because he's not going to push very fast too, because he's level 1. So again, see how long it's taking him to push when he does this. Your next minion wave is going to come, so it's not going to, you're not going to lose anything. And then this was obviously just kind of silly to walk up, but it is what it is.
But like walking up at like 100 HP, you're essentially just a sitting duck, useless.
Exactly. There's no point not just recall. And also, you're not using your spells, which is another thing. Like, be more okay with just using them. Like, again, you had multiple situations where you could have ghosted in. You even could just ignite to back him off as well. Even here, like, I think we should go for the wave. I was going to say maybe we can just all in on him here, but I think it's fine to just stay for the wave because you lose a lot, so.
Because I was thinking, like, early game XP is more important than gold.
No, it would be. I think you can all in him here, though. I'm pretty sure you just ghost, you kill him, which it looks like you are going to. So. Okay, but again, you're just not ghosting, and I just don't see a reason not to ghost to just make it easier. Like, I know you end up killing him because he's, like, the worst player on the planet. Like, this guy is horrible. But, like, I feel like we should just be ghosting to kite him and use it, like, you know what I mean? And, like, you ghost, and then you run behind him, so then he can't ever, right? It is what it is, but that's how I play it. Another thing here, we see their jungler. I'm pausing a lot because that's just what I do, but you see their jungler, you know he's not really in a situation where he can kill you, and you have ghost, and your wave sucks. Like the way this is going, we can see the wave is getting up here, but it's getting stopped by the next minions, which means that now you're going to lose a bunch of minions here.
Yep, I'm going to lose minions because
so you would rather just go and crash the wave after. Yeah, exactly. Do you actually build this build, or is this just the default build for Darius?
Since if it were a squishier champion, because Set usually builds full tank, right?
Yeah.
because with like Heartsteel,
Yeah, he's very tanky.
yeah. So the mindset was if I were to go Triforce, then I wouldn't really do anything.
Triforce is,
Um,
well, if he's building full tank, so the first two items he's building are Heartsteel Hydra, right? Or at least is
right.
what they normally build. Those are
Yeah,
both
they
pure
normally.
HP items with 0 armor. The only thing that'll
Yep.
have armor is Plate Steel Caps, and Cleaver's passive is armor penetration. So it's not going to be more effective than Trinity. I think Cleaver is fine. I don't think it's like a horrible first item. Again, I'm not like a super good Darius player, but I'm pretty sure Trinity Force would still be more damage and better overall and give you better stats here, and would
So
not like again they're not building a lot of armor early game, so you could just build Cleaver like third item for example.
that's true. But then I considered also the Eclipse, but then that's like a short bursty item.
Yeah,
But Darius is like all in, so it wouldn't be that cool. I mean
yeah.
that feel good
So I don't
of
have
an
a huge
item.
problem with Cleaver. Like if you prefer Cleaver first over also I think you could just, yeah, you could kill this. But if you prefer Cleaver first over Trinity, that's not a huge problem for me. I was more saying like you had like Blade of the Rune King later in your build and like GA, and like I don't think these
Mhm.
items you should build. That's more the problem. If you're gonna build Cleaver first, not the end of the world. Again, I think Trinity's probably still better, but I think you might be able to all in this guy here. Again, I don't know. I think the thing is you can try using your ghost to outplay W a lot more, because if he misses his W on you, like you dodge the true damage, then you can just kill him.
Mhm.
And like going for more all-in angles there might be decent. But again, we are behind, so I don't hate just playing a bit more passive either.
That's true. Oh wait, so the reason why I did not all in here is because he has Ninja Tabi. That's like the
Yeah,
exact question I asked you on stream. Because like if I were to brute force like the all in, I just lose because like he
yeah,
has
you might just
Ninja
die.
Tabi. Yes.
It's definitely possible. And so again, when I'm coaching people, I never pretend to be like an expert on every champion. That's not. I'm here to
Mhm.
tell people how to get better at the game, not to just like give them. Obviously, if I'm coaching like Jace player, I'm going to be able to give them more specific things. But Darius is like
Yep.
such an all-in champion, and if he's the champion that you're really focusing on playing, I think it's important to learn from mistakes in terms of like if you have a question in your mind, especially as you're trying to really focus on improving and getting better, if you think maybe you can all in, go for the outplay. And then once the result occurs, if it occurs negatively or even if it's positive, think deeper about it, afterwards, and then try to
Right.
determine, right, what did I know where the jungler was? Did he have ninja tab eyes, for example? All these different things. And if you notice that in the middle of the game and you were like, oh, he has ninja tab eyes, I'm not going to go on him, that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. But it's just in general, just like this is a champion with like pretty insane limits, and so I would focus very heavily on trying to like test your limits and go all in when you see any angles. Obviously don't be like too dumb about it. But anyways, talking about this situation again, I don't think you've used ghost this game. Like, have you actually used it? Like, why don't you just ghost here? Like, I get it, like you want to save it because you think you can kill him anyways, but just ghost is not that big of a cooldown. If you kill this guy, you
Right.
gain so much. You get complete prio. Now if the enemy goes bot side, you can crash a wave and get 2 turret plates before recalling. And if the enemy comes to you, then you're distracting them long enough for your team to get dragon and then possibly contest the herald, because the Volibear is going to be distracted by you. And instead,
Mhm.
you're like focused on maybe getting the kill. You could ghost behind him, so then if he does ult you, you're able to get an extra auto. You were scared of him for some reason. His W does not do 60% of your HP. You could have just walked at him and just killed him for free. So like you're just, again, you're really scared, and this is where the limit testing thing comes in, because maybe you're right. I think you are right that you couldn't have killed him in that situation that I was thinking you might have earlier. But then there's these situations where we have no idea, because I'm guessing we haven't tried enough, to really know when we can all in and can't all in.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm pretty sure you should just rush boots as well. I don't like rushing damage items in lane as top lane. Like for me, insta rushing boots just makes the lane so good, because then you get a back timer after like I think it's the 4th wave that you get 950 extra gold, and then you can recall, and that gives you a
Right.
huge power
Mm-hmm.
spike. But the way that it even worked here, for example, he had that ninja tab eyes and you didn't, and I don't know if you would have had enough gold in the back, but right, say you did, that's where even if you got 1400 gold worth of other things, the boots are always just way more valuable. So like right now, the main
So
things. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
um I I was going to say like my thought process, because in League PC usually a fully built item trumps boots rush, right?
Yeah.
So that's my entire philosophy. But then again, I guess like if you're to look at it this way, then boots would have been better because I'm facing volley bear and set, which are like AD centric
Yeah.
champions.
So the earliest that you're gonna get first item is realistically, unless you stomp lane, gonna be like right when first dragon is spawning, and that's even like a stretch that usually won't happen unless you get a kill in
Right.
lane. And so the earliest that you're gonna get it is first dragon, and then after that, and usually again you're not gonna get it at least like half the time. So then half the time you have all this time between the most important objective that you're just like not as powerful as you could be. Whereas if you're getting as powerful as you can in the lane, which again like the ninja tabbies are gonna make you powerful, more powerful and quicker, then you're going to be able to use that to snowball and then be more powerful for the dragon, where again I don't even think half the time you're going to get Trinity. So just like to me, because of the different like timers and the fact that the lane phase is shorter, getting that like bigger power spike early is going to be more important. Now say that you're in a matchup, say that you're laning Kale. Like if you're laning a Kale, then like maybe you can just rush damage because it's Kale, right? Like you're not very scared of
Right.
dying. So I wouldn't say it's every matchup that you have to do this, but set's a more like even matchup. So
Speaking of Kale, like everyone's playing Kale now.
yeah, I laned against the Kale today as Jace, and they were down like 3,500 gold. It was kind of hilarious how much I stomped them. But then we lost to Lamont's Kale jungle, like he 1v9. So
It's funny how Kale jungle works, and like the same reason why Fiddlesticks and Nila jungle works, because invading here is like
it's hard. Yeah,
it's suboptimal compared to League PC.
yeah. Invading is really troll most of the time. I mean,
True.
I think Kale
That's
jungle
why
is its best role for sure.
that's true. Because like people are allowed to scale because it's just suboptimal to invade and punish them
Yeah.
for some reason.
Okay, so here like we're trying to find a time to recall because again we're not really in like the best spot in lane. I guess he's actually inting into you, so it might be fine to. Yeah, I think you can just ghost and all in here. But again, you never click your ghost. I actually don't think we have used it in 8 minutes, which is pretty insane. We could have used it probably 4 or 5 times at this point. But again, this is another
Right.
reason that I just think taking flash, like flash is also just more easy to use. But I definitely think so far the main issues that I noticed, first of all, like we've saw the early game where you were focused about all-inning without really keeping in your mind like the actual spells that you want. Because again, if in your mind you were like, I want to level 1, I'm gonna ghost dodge the W, then you would have a plan and that makes sense. But you weren't
Mhm.
playing for that at all, and even then, I don't think it necessarily would work. But if we want to test it, that's fine. So we weren't playing for the level 2 advantage that we should have played for, and we weren't playing around the wave early game into a champion who we're not really going to win the all-ins against early. And then as we went later in the game, like the item things that we spoke about, and the main
Mhm.
real thing that I think in terms of like a mindset to approaching the game is that you're just really scared all the time, and you're not willing to kind of test the limits of your champion or really like try to go for outplays. Which again, I think going into these outplays, you need to really think about how they can actually respond. So again, in my mind, I'd be thinking I dodge his W, I can all in him because that's like a lot of his damage. And here we finally used our ghost, which is great. I'm very happy that we used it. But those would be the situations where I'm thinking again, if this spell is either he wastes his W or I know I can dodge it, I'm gonna try to go all in and look for something. Whereas you're just kind of playing very scared the whole game.
Mm.
But I assume I would go.
Those are really good points.
Yeah, I would go Sterix or Trinity. I feel like, but also I don't know what is the reasoning for not. Okay, you are rotating. I was gonna say what's the reasoning for not rotating, but it looks like you do actually. I also feel like taking Proto Belt here. That's another thing. A lot of times when I have a recall and I don't have a full item and a dragon spawning, I'll just
You
take an
just rush
enchant.
an
Yeah,
enchantment.
because the enchant's usually gonna do a lot more. Not always, but a lot of times. So I would have grabbed a Proto Belt instead of like an extra long sword or whatever that you grabbed there. So here, maybe you'll get free reset. That yeah. Maybe you just weren't in range, but do you play a lot of Darius? Like what is the champ pool? Is it mainly you have like a couple champs you stick to or
I do not.
Okay. Well, what is, I should have asked this earlier, but what is the goal of the coaching? Like, what was the purpose of you paying for it?
Um, I'm also asking myself the same thing.
Yeah.
It's more like I'm trying to save my burnt out self.
Okay. So you're burnt
Um,
out from the game.
mhm.
Why do you like? Why is that? You're losing a lot. You feel like you're not improving. Like, what is it?
Um,
Oh, we could also just talk about this after because this was,
yes,
you
we
said you
could.
wanted to talk about that.
This is
So
the real reason,
yeah.
actually, the second portion, because I thought it
Yeah.
was coaching, so I was like, I needed like a game in, so you would call it like Wild Rift coaching, that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah. So then, yeah, we can focus on this portion of the kind of mindset thing after then, because that is, I guess, what you wanted to do. So I can understand now why that was important to you. And we can focus on a little bit more of the gameplay things then as we have the gameplay going. So we kind of spoke about a lot of like the early game points and like even the dad is approaching in a different mindset in terms of trying to limit test more and play more for like, especially a champion like Darius again. Some of those itemization mistakes I think are also a big thing because I do feel like Trinity on this champ is just better most of the time. I don't think Sundered Sky second sounds very good to me. Again, if you're seeing a bunch of top Dariuses do this, then like go
Mhm.
for it. But I don't think it's what they're doing, and I don't think it's optimal. So, but I do think yeah, if you find top Dariuses playing certain builds and you like actually watch like videos on them or whatever, and then you want to try playing these, then it makes sense to me. But and even then, we should expect his W and not ult there. Like that's another thing. I don't think you're going in the games into a lot of these fights thinking about how the enemy is going to respond. I think you're just playing the fights out pretty autopilot from what I can tell. Because
That's exactly it.
yeah, because in my mind
Yeah.
here, it's like of course Set's gonna W. And again, we've had multiple times where we should be ghosting his W or these types of things. He's obviously gonna W, but we're gonna still ult him. Should be relatively obvious in our mind. Again, even here, if you're like really getting in your opponent's head, you can think about him flat. Like I wouldn't have predicted this, but you could, if you're like really five head, to think he's gonna flash and then be ghosting already as he's going over there and like ready to kind of get him, or saving your hook for that or whatever. Like these types of things, just thinking about the way our opponents are actually going to respond to us, thinking about what abilities are going to be used on us, these types of
Yeah.
things. That we approach team fights, we think what champion, especially as Darius again, what champion do we want to kill first? Usually you're going to want to be starting off hitting a tank. You're going to want to pay attention to how they're going to react to it. So does their enemy carry have a flash? If they don't have flash up, right, you can just proto belt E them and then you can pretty much just kill them if like it's like a squishy carry or these types of things.
Okay.
Approaching team fights like that going to be a lot more valuable. And then I don't want to start Baron here. I don't know why we're starting Baron here. It makes no sense. But another thing here,
Um.
yeah, what we should have been doing. Sorry, I'll let you talk after. But
Okay.
what
Sure.
we should have been doing in this situation, and when our teammate goes, then we have to eventually just like be like, okay, we're gonna go because our teammates went. But you should be bot side at this point. Like after that fight happened, you should just take the TP here, go bot side because there's a huge ass wave stacking, and there's gonna be another one coming soon. You should be getting all of that gold farming and being ready for the next team fight. You should ping your teammates retreat here, and then when they go, like you're gonna have to. But even here, zone. Don't hit it with them. You're useless. This doesn't do anything. You're just Darius, right? Go over the wall and zone. Try to find the volley bear so that they don't steal. When your teammates do dumb flips like this, and you're a tankier champion who doesn't have much damage, that's gonna be a lot more valuable. But I did cut you off. What were you
Mm-hmm.
gonna say?
Um. I I was going to ask if I was like really bad at collecting information, because as you can see, I'm like not panning my camera at all,
Mm,
and I
yeah.
usually play with music, so that contributes to the autopilot.
Yeah, and that is again why I think, like, yeah, I do think playing with music is not good. However, if you watch my stream, I play with music because it's more entertaining for people. So like,
It's
it's not.
music depend. I mean, it's person dependent.
Yeah, so it's not the other. Like the music to me is literally not in my like. I don't think about it. I genuinely don't even hear it while I'm playing. It's like it's just there, but it's not actually like registering in my mind. And for some
Mhm.
people, it helps them focus and whatever, and that's fine. I don't think it's like anything like that. You can have music if you want to have it. You just have to be actively asking yourself questions in game. And the way to actively ask yourself questions in game is to find specific things to work on. So even going and watching my other YouTube videos, especially of me coaching top laners, again, I always write out notes. We'll write out notes here as well. I give them
Mhm,
specific
mhm.
things to work on, usually 5 to 10 things. I tell them focus on 2 to 3 of these things at a time. Make have these points apply at different points of the game. For example, maybe one of the points applies to lane phase. So during the lane phase, I want your main thing to just be thinking only about this. I want that to be your entire mindset. For example, for you, what I want you to go into the lane phase thinking about early on, as we approach like improvement, is going to be finding all-in angles. Like I just want you to be thinking a lot about all-in angles. So anytime you see an angled all-in, I want you clicking your ghost, clicking your flash, and just going on them. And then once you die, because that's going to lead to you dying a lot, I want you to then think about what led to that. And then some of the things that are going to happen are you're going to die to a gank. And then now you're going to be like, okay, well, one thing I'm going to need to work on then in future games after I get better at understanding when I have the actual like damage to kill is now I need to think about jungle. Where is the jungle pathing? Is Lee Sin going to start blue side usually or red side usually? Am I on the side where then he'll be here around 2 minutes, or will he be here around 3:15? What times is the jungle going to be? And then you're going to make other mistakes. You're just going to be like, oh, I can't all in that champion there. Okay. Another thing for Darius, utilizing the Scorpion as a bait, because he's really good at if he gets people in that corner, then he wins the fights really hard. So using that as a bait, for example, in lane, just all of these different types of things, finding a couple things to work on at a time, and really going into every game, literally during champ select as the game's loading in, specifically in your mind saying to yourself, I'm going to do this well. I don't care if I win or lose. Obviously, you're going to want to win. But what matters is if I feel like I got good at that. So did I find an all-in angle that I wouldn't have known about otherwise? Then I'm proud of myself even if I lost the game because I got better at something, right? And later on in the game, did I end up not making like a dumb, for example, the mistake that we just made there, which ended up causing them to steal Baron because we let our team do it without zoning. If you then in the future, you make a good play where you zone and then that leads to your team getting the Baron, you should, keep that as a positive in your mind, or just all these different things. For example, again, I think I'm not seeing you go to side lanes very well either. Your awareness of when to side lane or when to be on other parts of the map is not very good. Like you're going with your team to kill a turret that's already going to die, and you could go pressure other parts of the map or get more gold elsewhere. Again, even with that Baron situation too. So those are some of the things that I want you to specifically be focusing on, which we will write down before we go into the next part of the coaching. And I think that will help you actively focus on the game rather than autopiloting.
Well, I mean, you hit pretty much everything on the head because this game was pretty much complete autopilot, like totally burnt up, given up,
Yeah.
like don't give a care anymore thing, and like that's why I have this mindset where I feed but then I win kind of thing.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
when you're playing, how long do you play for at a time? Do you play like long periods of time?
um not anymore. On a normal day, I'd usually play for 2 hours
Okay,
max.
that's pretty reasonable. Yeah.
Cause like, I tilt off the face of the planet because like I'm burnt out, and then that leads to bad results. Bad results leads to tilting more.
Yeah, for
Then
sure.
I just tilt 180 degrees.
No, I get
Like,
that. I mean, I have the same like thing definitely happened to me, and I have to just take a break for like a day, which is harder when I'm like I want to stream. So it's like but it definitely it is important to just take
true.
breaks when you have like that
When you
happening.
stream, you just cannot take breaks
Yeah,
unless if
that's
you
why
want to
it's hard.
change games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't play any other games, so that's why it's hard. I think I've streamed like 35 or 36 days in a row at this point now, so it's like, because I was like tilted for a few days and I was going to take a break, but then I won a ton like the last couple days, so then it's like, it's fine now. If you win, everything's okay. That's how it works. All right, so yeah, we'll write some notes out then, and then after that, we can talk about the
Gotcha.
mindset thing and kind of approaching the game and everything like that, and like make an actual plan for what our goal is, because I think finding a reason to play, whether your purpose is to get a specific rank or to get better at the game or to get good at a certain chat or whatever the goal is, we need to have some type of purpose or reason that we're playing the game. Do you see my screen just for the notes? Just want to make
Yep,
sure.
I do.
Okay. So the first thing, again, early game, look for more all-in angles. Think about how enemy can respond to us and how we can counter. And then I'll write in parentheses, the example of that is set will W. So we use Ghost, dodge true damage, and all in. This is just an example, obviously depends on the situation for if that's actually what we should be doing.
So
Yeah,
for your se- second point, you essentially said that playing Wild Rift is like a conversation. Like
yeah.
you ask your enemy what they can do,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and that's
And
all like that's like it's hard to actively do this. Like I'm not actively necessarily doing this in the game. Like the way that I've played this game so much that it's kind of something that's I've already like thought about it, and so it's like
yep.
natural. So obviously all of
Mhm.
this stuff isn't necessarily actually going to actively go on in your mind. Sometimes you're just going to know it. But when you don't know it or when you're autopiloting, asking yourself actual specific concrete questions in the game is really important. And so some of the most important questions to ask yourself are: where is the enemy jungle? Can I kill this guy? When will I be able to kill this guy? What items do the enemy have? What is the
Right.
win condition of the game? What's the purpose of what I'm doing? Like I always want to have a goal behind what I'm doing. Like when I'm playing Jace, for example, my sole goal in playing
Mhm.
Jace is to get gold because Jace's only value in the entire game is dealing damage to my opponents. And so
That's
I need
true.
to get as much gold as possible before the first dragon, the second dragon, all of the objectives, because that's all that I care about. And you need to have like a specific objective. You need to understand what your champion wants to do in any individual game, which is different. For example, when you fall behind early on Darius, I don't think it's the worst thing ever to go Dead Man's Plate second item and then just build full tank
Yes,
after that and then
because you
just
can
play
still
to
pull
engage,
people.
right? Your champion can be useful in different ways. And so you need to
Mhm.
understand when you can, change your playstyle. So I'll write something along those lines. Be willing
Mhm.
to alter your playstyle. I can't type. Alter your playstyle
Mhm.
based on game,
Situations.
based on situation, yeah. And then along those lines, just ask yourself questions in game.
Mhm.
Stay engaged. Because I mean, this is even something that I've been like figuring out with like studying. Is like when I've like done research on how to study properly and whatever. It's like all about active learning versus like passive things, where like passive things are like you're like just reading a textbook and
Mhm.
you're just kind of mindlessly going through it, whatever. And then active things are like creating, actual practice questions or asking yourself how this can relate to like the bigger picture of things, whatever. And I approach Wild Rift the same way. I'm always trying to keep myself engaged in whatever way I can, which again for me is different because I'm like streaming. But in an ideal world,
Right.
we're finding very active ways to keep ourselves focused on the game by asking ourselves unique questions and having a specific goal and purpose every time that we kind of go into the game.
What's really funny is that I play better when I'm streaming.
Yeah, I play a
Be-
lot worse, but
because when you like because I'm very good at commentating out loud,
yeah.
but I'm very bad at commentating in my inner monologue. So I tend to think better when I verbalize it to like an audience. But if it's just me playing, I tend to shut up,
I mean,
which
that
is
makes
really
sense because I
bad.
do play better when I'm talking specifically about the game. Like I remember when I was really close to Challenger on top lane, I would uh I was like super focused, so I stopped reading chat and I would just start telling them everything that was going through my mind. And I played so insane and
Mhm.
then got Challenger in like 2 days after that because I was just so focused on everything that I'm doing. So yeah, like when I'm commentating specifically over what I'm actually thinking and doing, then I play really well. But a lot of times I'm like talking to chat and other things, and that's where it gets distracting and whatever.
That's true. All right.
Okay,
So
we have a couple more
this
points we can talk about in terms of the gameplay before we go on to like the whole mindset thing. There wasn't too many like big things. Again, a lot of the things are approaching the game in a different way. I'll also
right.
just say a couple of things for build Flash Ghost or Flash Ignite, in my opinion. I think that Flash Ignite is better for lane phase. So when you see a lane you think you can win, then go that. When you see a lane that you don't think you can win, go Flash Ghost. Or when you just see a game where you think it's kind of going to be a preference thing. Either of these are fine. And then also
Mhm.
Trinity probably better first item most games.
Okie dokie.
But I will say, go look at other players. Don't just take my word for it because I'm not a Darius one trick. Go look up on YouTube, see what they're building, and then that can also give you a better idea of what to build. But I would say Trinity seems like, in my opinion, would be better. Oh, Rush Boots as
Yep.
well. I forgot we didn't
Yep.
say this, but Rush Boots.
Rush.
And then for like some of the later parts of the game, zone objectives.
So rush
Rather,
boots for like every
yeah.
single champion in the game, that kind of thing.
In top lane, you should almost always rush boots. but we will write unless really easy matchup,
Okay.
then rush damage item, because in that situation you might be able to stomp him. In my opinion, I would still rush boots, but like if you want to rush or like Trinity or whatever into like again Kale or really easy matchups, I don't have a problem with you doing that. So
Is the Omni Vamp boots bad in top lane? Is just like defensive boots just way better?
most of the
It's like
time, I mean, it depends on the champion you're playing, but definitely on Darius, I would say you should always go defensive boots.
because like I did experiment because like I was ahead, right? And then
Yeah.
I rushed the Omnivamp boots and I just died instantly.
Yeah, I don't think
So
it's really great on your champ on any bruisers. Again, damage
so
boots are only really for like Jace and a couple other tops.
yeah, so like offensive boots are just better for ranged champions more than melees,
Yeah,
right?
for the most part. And I mean, champs too, like a Kali, for example. But even a Kali sometimes rushes armor boots or mercs in lane as well. But yeah, I mean, generally, if the champ is not a champ that's super focused, like basically, yeah, you pretty much got it. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. So the last couple things, and I think it's just this one more
Yep.
point. Zone objectives rather
Sure.
than hitting with your team. It depends on the situation again. Sometimes your team's going to die to the Baron and you need to, but I think you need to be more aware of zoning in fights. And then pay more attention to side
By
lanes. Well,
by
yeah.
zoning, do you mean I go in front of them and damage them, or like CC them, or
So like it would depend on the situation, but we'll go back to this situation on the Baron, whatever this was. So I'm trying to find where Baron was. It was here. Like here, you should literally have gone over the wall into the bush. Like you should have gone over here because first of all, it's stupid as hell to start it when 5 enemies are up and only Vayne's on the side lane, and we ended up losing this as we saw. But you should just go here to
right?
find Volibear once your team is it. Like you should be pinging retreat 94 times and hope that your idiots listen. But if they don't, then you go into the bush and you try to zone. Because and that's another reason why having flash is really great, because then you can zone here and you can flash over the wall. But if you don't have flash, you just you can't really do that. But I'm fine with dying in order to secure the Baron, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okie dokie.
And then yeah, you need to pay more attention to the side lanes, because even in that situation, for example, the fact that you were with your team right here and not responding to the Vayne, generally top laners want to push the opposite side of the objective. As Darius, you obviously want to join team fights as much as possible. So your goal on side laning, and I do have a video on side laning where I explain kind of
Push for
how to do
prio,
it.
right?
But yeah, it's just to push and then roam, and then when they go, you have to respond. But when you're in here grouping with your team, you don't really have a real purpose with this group either, because you're almost never going to get a Baron at 12 minutes. As soon as I think it spawns at 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. You're never going to really get a Baron at 12 minutes unless you're way ahead. Your goal is not to be centered around the Baron. Your goal is to play around the first 2 dragons, and then maybe in between 3rd dragon, you can start trying to make a possible play if you're in the lead and you want to make the game end quicker. But generally speaking, go to side lanes, push those, and then group with our team rather than doing it how we did it. Because even here, even if you did want to be doing something else, you could even just be topside here, and that's also fine. But there's a lot of gold that we're leaving on the map.
Yes, because guaranteed gold is better than coin flipping Baron.
Yeah, and again, your team, you didn't like ping it and call it. Your team kind of just did it, and that's
Yep.
unfortunate. I think these are the main points. I don't think there's anything else super specific. I just think if we go into the games, we focus on these couple things, and you seem like you have some experience with the game in general, so you can always
Because
find,
I'm a PC
yeah,
player.
exactly, and so you can always find things in your gameplay that you recognize that you need to work on. I do also obviously have YouTube videos that you can always go into those and just be like, oh, that is something that I need to work on too, and then write that as a new point. So once you fix these, however many points, I think you need to continue writing these out for yourself. You can obviously pay for more coaching if you want, but like realistically, just you don't need more coaching for this. You can do it yourself and find some points to work on, and just always have these couple things that you go into actively working on. And it's not going to feel amazing right away. Like this is how I approached when I was actually really trying to get better at the game, for like when I was doing that 5-role challenger thing. Now I don't really try to get better, I just play. But when I was doing that, I would have these specific points. I would literally write things down and go into every stream working on something, and I didn't get better for like a couple months in terms of my climbing. I was stuck in the same rank.
Mhm.
It felt like nothing was getting better, but in reality, I was slowly building up a lot of habits. And after, you know, 1 season, 2 seasons, I ended up being able to climb the Challenger for the first time, and then climbing on the other ranks or on the other roles as well, which is kind of like the mindset
Ooh.
thing with your goal. And this is where I want to try to shift into what you wanted to talk about.